Greetings, hosts, and welcome to another video. So, this is Deck Report Season 6, week number 3, and today we're bringing back an old friend. So, it's been a long time since we played Ritual Beast. I think the last time I profiled it was in the midst of Fiendsmith format, I think it was. Like, basically around the time the first wave of Malice and Ryziel. And it was mainly as an experiment to see whether or not we could play around Artifact Lancea. Lancea is not in the format anymore, which is very favorable for this deck. Also, Mitsurugi and Yomi are two very, very popular decks right now, which are two matchups that this deck can actually do well against. But is this actually a good pick this format? Well, we'll get straight to the list, and then I'll explain how my experiences went, and whether or not I should play this deck moving forward. Because a lot happened yesterday at locals when I played this deck. Alright, let's go straight to the list. So, 3 Elder, 3 Lara, 3 Kanahawk, 3 Rampengu, Lara, Gwen, Pilika, Winda, Apelio, the honorary 4th Rampengu, which is the Shield Bearer, and then for the other cards, we got 3 Ash, we got the Shifter, and we got the Nemesis. Spell cards. 3 Inheritance, 3 Teleport, 3 Thrusts, 3 Books, Talents called by Steeds, and the Black Gold Lass. That is the main deck. I think it is 40 cards. Cross Sheep, Conductor, SP, Double Kimun Falcos, Raytiari, Banshee, Double Colossus, Double Kanahawk, Double Nuku Drago, Ulti Apelio, and Ulti Apelio. So, let me take out the side deck because you did see Carpi Conductor, which kind of alludes to something that is not in the main deck. So for side, we got 2 Ghost Bells, 3 Drolls, Duster, Triple Dark Ruler, Evenly Mashed, Triple Macrocosmos, Duster, and Barrier. Alright, so let's start with why did I choose to play Ritual Beast this week. So I have a regional in 3 weeks, and I am literally testing everything I have available. We already tried out Malice, we already tried out Draco Tail, we sort of tried out Lunalight. We'll talk about that in a future video. And yeah, after the 2 YCSs that happened this past weekend, it is kind of like more than reassuring that Mitsurugi and Yomi are the two best decks to beat. Dracotail is getting up there, but I don't think Dracotail has like the ceiling. I think what makes Dracotail favorable this matchup is just the non-engine that the deck can play, and the non-engine that's being played in the format that just is not favorable into Dracotail. That's not to say that Dracotail isn't weak to popular non-engine right now. It's more that the non-engine that is catered more towards hate to Yomi and into Mitsurugi is not favored into Dracotail. But however, we already tried out Dracotail last week, and if you saw anything or remembered anything from my last week's deck report, I'm not the biggest fan of Draco Tail right now. Like, I do think the deck is really good. I think the deck is not on an unfavorable position, but I think when it comes, I also think that when it comes to too many rounds, you have to know what you're doing with Draco Tail, because there is so much hate for Draco Tail right now. It's crazy. So I tried out Ritual Beast this week, and my hunch was if the two most popular decks are two matchups that are fine into Ritual Beast, then we should be fine. The other thing I thought about is that the best non-engine that's being played right now is not the best non-engine into Ritual Beast. Now, why do I think that is still the case? After playing yesterday at locals, it was kind of awkward because I ended on a 2-2 record. I faced two Yummy Mitsurugis, a Draco Tail, and a Pure Mitsurugi. I beat the two Yummy Mitsurugi decks. Again, that matchup is just really favorable for us. However, Draco Tail is a weird matchup because I'll explain. So the problem with Draco Tail is the Nemesis cards are not good into Draco Tail. Like, the deck plays a lot of different attributes, so Protos locking them is not favorable. The deck really doesn't search that much outside of K2 and Lucius, so Colossus locking them isn't that favorable either. And one of our best non-engines that we're playing as a breaker, as a defensive card, is Book of Eclipse, and this card is also not good into Draco Tail either. We do have like Call by the Grave, which is Draco Tail's biggest hate card. And post side, we do have Macrocosmos. In the main deck, we also have Dimension Shifter. But is that really enough? Like, post side, we have these cards. And you can make the argument that these cards are good into Draco Tail. This is good into Draco Tail if you're breaking the board as well. These are okay versus Draco Tail too, just combating their traps and part of their engine. But I just feel that even with these hate cards, it's still not enough. Like, my biggest contributing factor to losing to Draco Tail was that I did play around the 5 mana. Gaia Pelio becomes a win condition against that matchup. However, I ended up losing because my Draco Tail opponent had specifically like 2 to 3 engine pushes against this. They were playing Fusion Deployment, which allowed them to summon Blazing Cartesia, which is another engine push. If you're playing against the branded version, that is another engine push as well. Like, the seeding of the deck is not that favorable. Like, it's not that unfavorable against you, but if that deck has enough pushes, they could play around against your board. And again, the Nemesis cards don't do anything to them. So Draco Tail is already not a good matchup for us. Against Mitsurugi, what ended up happening was game 1, I lost to Call by the Grave. They went first, they set up their board, I activated Lara, FF from hand, and then it got called by it. And that was the end of that game. Game 2, my only opener was Rampengu, and it got ashed. Like, this is the typical story of my opponent just not knowing how to hand trap against Ritual Beast, but your hand is so mediocre that they get away with it. It just happens. It's part of the game. Ritual Beast is not really the most consistent deck out there as well, so you can consider that as a pseudo brick. I did have the Pelican for next turn, and I had Ghost Bell and Droll, but it was not enough. My opponent had Nibiru, and our engine push to try to unsimplify the game state meant walking into Nibiru. and that's a wrap. We can't do a lot about that, sadly. So those were my matches. Let's talk about a few other non-engines that we picked in this deck, right? Let's see if we can clump these together very neatly. So one of them was Macrocosmos. I kind of wanted to experiment with Macrocosmos because Dimensional Fissure is the right call. It should have been the card I should have played because it's a lot easier to activate. It just works on turn 0. However, I wanted to try out Macrocosmos just for the fact that this can also banish spell cards. And banishing spell cards is really important in this format because against Mitsurugi, their only recovery is Kusanagi. Against Draco Tail, like getting rid of their spell cards is also really important, especially if they're playing the branded version. This card, I don't need to explain how strong this card is against Yomi. Against Yomi, Dimensional Fissure should be enough, but this making it so their Yomi Surprise cannot be recovered from the graveyard, and their field spells cannot do their recycle effects, also can work out in your favor. So that was the idea behind Macrocosmos. I do regret playing this. This should have been Dimensional Fissure, even though it does not trade well into Mitsurugi. So, other non-engine, so Harpy's Feather Storm, this did win me one of my matches. Basically, if they ash you or they stop your Ritual Beasts at any point, you can thrust into this and just summon Harpy Conductor. Also, going second, this is not a bad card to have. Because if you end up summoning Harpy Conductor, you can activate this as a hand trap. I thought about playing multiple copies of Featherstorm and just doing the Harpy approach, but this deck already bricks enough as is, and I didn't want to brick too hard with the deck. So that was one other choice that we made. Evenly is kind of mediocre right now. However, if you pair this with other breakers, like for example Dark Ruler, which we did play 3 of, this is not that bad into boards. This card is also really strong against the Draco Tail board. Not many Draco Tail builds have a way to stop this. So something to consider in this format. This is also really good against the rogue decks too. So something else that we did was we did play Black Goat in the main deck. So my thought process behind Black Goat was I wanted this defensive card to set with Thrust, but I didn't want it to be Featherstorm in the main deck. The really cool thing about Black Goat is it also works as discard fodder for like inheritance. So even when you're going second, you can inheritance, dump the Black Goat from your hand, and just Black Goat to call a card. Like the best example should be like Yumi Snatchy or Murakumo. But yeah, that was it for that, right? Now, the extra deck is also not very standard. Like we are playing 2 Colossus. I think Colossus is really strong right now. Like against Yomi and Mitsurugi, this card is not that bad. Like the thing about the Yomi matchup is they do have a bunch of extenders and starters. However, like this can shut down a lot of cards. Like Copsy not being able to add. Some builds are playing Piri Ray map. This also stops that. This card is also good against like the Copsy Synchro, the Engage. Some builds are playing Prosperity as well. And if you're playing like the hybrid version with the Mitsurugi cards, this card also just shuts them down. So yeah, honestly, I really do think this was not a bad choice. There is a combo in this deck that involves Cross Cheap, where you can just summon both Colossus. Sometimes that Cross Cheap can be converted into Raytiari before the second Colossus summon. Sadly, this does lose to Nibiru. If Raytiari had the effect to just prevent tributing in general, this deck probably would have been a way better deck and way more favorable into this format than it currently is. But yeah, I think I explained everything. So, what is my final consensus with this deck? It's really hard to say because both, two of my losses this week were to Nibiru, and Nibiru should not be a really popular card right now. However, like, it is played in the Mitsurugi deck, and it's also being played in Draco Tail as pseudo staples. So that already is not favorable for us. This deck does have a consistency problem as well. You could make the argument that I should have played Prosperity, and that would be another consistency card. But, you know, our only one-card starters are Rampengu and Konohawk. This is mostly a two-card combo deck, and if we're going to play two-card combo decks, you might as well play Draco Tail. Or Malice. I do think the format is not unfavorable for this deck entirely. I do think if you have your day, Ritual Beast could like steal a couple of event tops and wins, especially since a lot of players to this day just don't know how to play against Ritual Beast. But that's it from me. I hope you found this informative to your liking and understanding. Will I play this deck again? I'm not sure. I know there's a K9 version that's also really running around, but the problem with the K9 version is all the extra deck space that you have to dedicate for it. Like, imagine trying to fit in like the extra deck for the Nemesis cards and for the K9 cards, and keeping your engine count for Ritual Beast like at bay. It's not easy. But yeah, keep practicing and keep dueling.